The pounding on my door rattled the frame like someone trying to break it down. 3 sharp bangs, then 3 more heavy and insistent, and when I glanced at the clock it was 11 p.m. on a Saturday. Nobody from any legitimate authority shows up at your door at that hour. I pulled the curtain back just a crack, and what I saw almost made me laugh. 2 guys stood shoulder to shoulder on my porch, tattoos crawling up their arms. Tactical boots planted like they owned the place. Across their chests were cheap patches that read, HOA Police. Behind them, arms folded, chin lifted, was Karen Whitmore, the self-appointed queen of Willowbend, our HOA president. Her smile was sharp, smug, like she'd finally cornered me. I almost pitied her because tucked inside my jacket pocket wasn't just a driver's license, it was an FBI badge. When I moved here 3 months earlier, I wanted quiet. My name's Daniel Miller. 38 federal agent by trade, and after 15 years chasing fraudsters and organized crime across state lines, I was ready for peace. Willowbend seemed like the perfect place, kids riding bikes, neighbors waving lawns trimmed just enough. I wanted crickets at night, not chaos. But Karen had other plans. In this neighborhood, she measured power by citations and clipboards, and she'd already slapped 3 bogus fines on my door. My grass, my driveway, even my trash can placement, every little thing became her excuse to assert control. And tonight, she'd escalated. Now she had muscle. The taller one, Vince, twirled a pair of handcuffs on his finger like a threat. The other Brad held a clipboard flipping through pages as if arrest paperwork was already filled out. Karen stood there smug as ever and declared, Daniel, you've ignored 3 citations. Tonight, the board voted for immediate enforcement. I leaned against the doorframe, keeping my hand on the pocket that held my credentials. The board, huh? Or just you and your 2 hired friends? Her silence said everything. That's when I pulled it out, flipped the leather open. The porch light gleamed off gold letters. Special Agent Miller, FBI. You 2 are impersonating law enforcement. That's a federal crime. And Karen, what you're running looks an awful lot like extortion. For the first time, her smile cracked. They left that night, SUV's headlights sweeping across my lawn, but I knew it wasn't over. In fact, it had just begun. Over the next week, that same SUV crept up and down the block like a shark. No city plates, just tinted windows and hazard lights flashing. It wasn't just me they harassed. Mr. Franklin, an old veteran down the street, was cited twice for his flag not being properly lit. Tamara Lewis, a single mom, got a foreclosure notice over a flower bed that didn't meet community standards. Fear spread fast. Some neighbors whispered behind closed curtains. Others started believing Karen's uniforms and citations. I documented everything, every pass of the SUV, every fine slapped on a door. But I wasn't just fighting Karen anymore. She was building a system, and then she came after me differently. Whispers started at the mailbox. Did you hear Agent Miller pulled a gun on those compliance officers? A lie, but rumors spread like fire. Within days, I was called into the Richmond field office. My boss slid a thin folder across his desk. We've received a complaint, he said flatly. Multiple witnesses claim you threatened private security officers with a firearm. Internal Affairs is investigating. You're off active duty until further notice. My chest tightened. I'd spent my career upholding law and order, and now my own badge was being used against me. Karen had landed her first real hit. That night, as the SUV crawled past my house again, I stood by the window with my dog at my feet and wondered if she was winning. Neighbors avoided my eyes. Even FBI wasn't standing behind me. For the first time, I thought about packing it up, leaving Willowbend to rot under Karen's reign. Maybe it wasn't worth it. Maybe she'd broken me without firing a shot. But then, just as I was sinking into that thought, there was a knock. Tamara stood on my porch, kids hiding behind her, tears in her eyes. She shoved a paper into my hands. They say if I don't pay by Friday, they'll take my house. Her voice broke. I can't lose my kids' home. I looked at her boys, small silhouettes in the porch light, and something inside me snapped back into place. I'd seen this too many times before, bullies preying on the vulnerable. And every time the only thing that stopped them was someone willing to fight. I spread out every fake citation, every photo, every note. Patterns jumped out targeting senior single parents, anyone too tired to resist. I dug into company filings. That so-called community compliance group on the SUV. A shell LLC. No employees, no licenses. Just one name on the paperwork, Karen Whitmore. She wasn't just abusing HOA rules. She'd built herself a fake police force. But evidence alone wasn't enough. Bullies thrive on silence. I needed neighbors to speak. So I went door to door. Franklin, the Hendersons, Tamara. Each had a story, each had paper trails. Fear kept their mouths shut at first, but once they saw my badge, once they realized someone was willing to take the heat, they began to crack. "You go after her son," Franklin muttered, "and you won't stand alone." For the first time, I felt the tide shifting. That's when Karen raised the stakes. One night I woke to my truck engulfed in flames at the curb. Another evening, a brick smashed through my front window, a note taped to it. "Next time, we won't miss." And then came the letter slid under my door. "1 week, you leave, or kids bleed first." My pulse stayed steady. But I knew this wasn't neighborhood drama anymore. This was organized crime hiding behind HOA bylaws. I set up my dining table like a command center. Files, photos, a corkboard with threads linking names and dates. Karen was the mask, but she wasn't alone. I traced money flows through inflated HOA contracts, and one name surfaced: Leonard Brooks. On paper, a consultant. In reality, the financier pulling Karen's strings. Through a sting operation, we baited them. Neighbors filed fake complaints. We planted cameras, audio mics. Even a drone courtesy of Franklin's grandson. And then Jackpot Tamara brought me emails from Karen's own account. Threats, payoffs, and one line reporting progress to Leonard K. That was it. I posed as a nervous resident, called Brooks directly, and got him to reveal a meeting. Wednesday night, community center, after hours. We set up quietly, me, Alvarez from local law enforcement, and 3 neighbors ready to see it through. At 10 p.m., the SUV rolled up. Vince climbed out, tattoos hidden under long sleeves. Brad followed, and then Brooks himself. Smooth suit, confident stride, the kind of man who thought the world bent around him. Karen greeted him like royalty. Hidden mics caught every word. "Fear is leverage," Brooks said calmly. "Property values matter more than people. We make examples." That was all I needed. I stepped out from the shadows badge, catching the faint light. "Funny thing, Leonard," I said, voice steady. "Property values drop fast when the FBI seizes your assets." Vince reached for his waistband, but Alvarez barked, "Don't even think about it." Chaos erupted, chairs scraping, Karen shrieking, Brooks paling, but within minutes, cuffs clicked shut. The room froze in disbelief. Karen's face twisted in fury, eyes burning with hatred as she spat at me. "You don't know what you've done, Miller. Leonard isn't the top. He answers to others. Bigger than you, bigger than all of us." Her words hung heavy, but the fight was over. At least here, at least now. That night, as Karen slumped in handcuffs and Brooks was led away, neighbors peeked from behind curtains, finally realizing the nightmare was ending. For months, fear had stalked every street. Now, at last, the mask had been torn off. And me, I walked out, steady, the weight of the badge in my pocket and the sound of silence settling over Willow Bend again. The lesson was sharp and simple: bullies only win when good people stay quiet.